Welcome to the Doug Tenapel channel. This is where the happy patriots are. Thank you for subscribing. There's new merch down below. I made a tumbler cup. I made a jogging bra. Lots of Doug in Exile stuff for the fans. Thanks for checking it out. We have shenanigans in Colorado, and then we have these polls where CNN is starting to come around that Trump's going to win. Let's take a look.
Just 28% of Americans, voters, think the country is going in the right direction, is on the right track.
This week, Kamala has been comparing her political opponents to the most evil mass murderers in history.
Kamala's terrible numbers, they go much deeper than people remember. She was the least popular Democrat back when Biden was running, and they said that she was a drag on the campaign and that America has been thinking that it's going on the wrong direction for years now. So this isn't new.
And I want you to put that into a historical perspective for you. Okay, what's the average percentage of the public that thinks that the country is on the right track when the incumbent party loses? It's 25%. That 25% looks an awful bit like that 28% up there. It doesn't look anything like this 42% doesn't look anything like this 28%.
So historically, recent history, America's been in decline. When you have only 28% thinking we're on the right track, that's a hardcore leftist Democrat thinking.
So the bottom line is, very few Americans think the country is on the right track at this particular point. It tracks much more with when the incumbent party loses than with it wins. In fact, I went back through history. There isn't a single time in which 28% of the American public thinks the country is going on the right track in which the incumbent party actually won. They always lose when just 28% of the country believes that the country is on the right track.
Now, if you're in the Kamala Harris campaign, what can you do to turn it around? How do you get those numbers of people thinking you're on the wrong track, 28%? How do you get it up to that 42% where you can win? What can she do? Not enough time. She can't do nothing. She's just going to keep going how Trump is Hitler. That didn't work.
It is you are swimming upstream if you're trying to win in this environment. Also, on a micro level, a lot of the coverage today is over something President Biden said.
And now, speaking on a call for her campaign last night, Joe Biden finally said what he and Kamala really think of our supporters. He called them garbage.
Those of us on the right, we've felt this for a long time, that the hardened leftists, the crazy Democrats, think we are human garbage and treat us that way. Totally expendable. They cheer when guys like Steve Bannon go to jail. There's no remorse at all for making Trump into a felon. They cheer it on. The Joe Scarborough types, the very left, hard left of America, the 25% most left are the only ones that think we're in going in the right direction. They're disconnected from you, from your grocery bills, from the danger that comes from an open southern border. They have no idea, no care about the wars that their weakness has invited. They're disconnected.
On the macro level, what kind of a weight is he on the Harris campaign?
Yeah, so, Joe Biden isn't on the ballot, but he's certainly in the minds of Americans, right?
How weird that they're saying Joe Biden is now the drag on the ballot. It was just a few months ago that they were all of these same people were saying Kamala Harris is the drag on the ballot. Joe Biden would be doing spectacularly if he wasn't being dragged down by that terrible candidate, Kamala Harris. And then Biden stepped down, Kamala Harris steps in, and now it's Kamala Harris is the glowing ray of sunshine. What are we going to do about Biden being this drag on the ticket? His reputation. How do we distance ourselves from the current president?
So the bottom line is, for Kamala Harris to win, she'd have to break history, be a Democrat to succeed Joe Biden when Biden's approval rating is way underwater.
Well, that should bring you some good news and a smile on your face. All Kamala has to do to win is break history, as CNN says.
Registration numbers, Harry.
Republicans have been registering voters in big, huge numbers. They have been gaining in party registration versus the Democrats in the swing states with party registration. We're talking Arizona. I think it's a 5-point. They've expanded their lead from 5 points from where it was back in 2020. How about Nevada? Big Republican registrations there. They like the early vote. How about North Carolina? Big Republican registration gains. How about Pennsylvania? We spoke about it before a few months ago. Big Republican Party registration gains versus from where they were 4 years ago.
This is the best news because a lot of people come out with polls on early voting, leaning toward Trump. That doesn't always impress me. I love the early voters, guys. Get out, vote early. but it could just be a switch in numbers going from the normal Republicans that show up day of, and now they're early voting, same number, right? The big news is that we're expanding the voter base. Trump is getting people registered in mass unseen numbers. That means he's creating Republican voters.
So Republicans are putting more Republicans in the electorate. The Democratic number versus the Republican number has shrunk. And so the bottom line is, if Republicans win, come next week, Donald Trump comes next week, the signs all along will have been obvious.
Yeah, now they're going, oh, it was obvious that Trump was going to win. That's new. I haven't heard that from CNN, from MSNBC, from the press. See, everyone has to tighten their polls now because they were so far in Kamala's favor that they would discredit themselves. Any poll number that gets that election wrong, they'll be out of a job, or they should be out of a job anyways, and they just further discredit themselves. Well, now they all got to get on the Trump train. They only have a couple days left in the election. They don't want to be caught. And now CNN is saying, oh, we knew it all along because of that low satisfaction number that has not changed. That 28%, it's not like it started super high, then came down low. Americans have not been happy, other than the 28%, most liberal in America. The rest of America, which is a huge 3/4 of America, has not been pleased for a long time. And now it's news?
We would look at the right direction being very low, Joe Biden's approval rating being very low, and Republicans really registering numbers. You can't say you weren't warned.
Thank you for the warning 5 days before the election. Some of us knew a long time ago. Now, here's the shenanigans in Colorado.
Secretary Griswold told me today that she had not decided whether to tell you, the public, about that password leak before she got called out on it publicly today.
Secretary Griswold out of California. Where have I heard that name before? Anyway, she has a password leak that went out, and they weren't sure if they were going to let the public know about it.
I asked Secretary Griswold whether she takes responsibility for this election security breach in the same way that she has held others accountable. And we discussed a string of errors by her office that can damage voter confidence.
To be very clear, we do not see this as a full security threat to the state. This is not a security threat.
Oh, that Secretary Griswold. Let me take you back to when they were trying to take Trump's name off the Colorado ballot. That was Secretary Griswold pushing that thing through, and she was furious that she didn't get her way. And now suddenly there's a bunch of passwords that allow people to get into electoral numbers. And will she be held accountable? That's what he's asking her. Of course not. Democrats, if this was a Republican, they'd be in jail. They'd probably pull out a guillotine on them or deport them. Democrats, different standard.
You do frequent media interviews warning of the insider threats to elections. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security defines an insider threat as somebody who uses authorized access wittingly or unwittingly to do harm. Did the actions of your office pose an insider threat to elections?
No.
No, of course not. It was unwittingly, as the Department of Homeland Security said, and they're all going like, no, because it didn't involve Trump and Russia. Of course, there was no security threat, even though she threatened to bring the hammer down on other Republicans in past elections.
In 2021, when Mesa County's voting system passwords leaked, your office said, quote, the public disclosure of the BIOS passwords for one or more components of Mesa County's voting system alone constitutes a serious breach of voting system security protocols. By that standard, did your office commit a serious breach of voting system security protocols?
Well, to push back on you, Kyle, that sentence is in the press release, but there is a much bigger press release. And part of that investigation in Mesa County was 2 sets of passwords, unauthorized access, stolen passwords, and it was in a different time. Since 2021 and what happened in Mesa County, our security has improved, including the 24/7 hour cameras, including the badge and access.
Oh, badges and cameras. She's not going to answer the question about the leaked passwords. By the way, it was a 2-password system. A full list of the 1 password, the first password, is what got out. The second password did not get out, or it might have been the other way around, where the second password leaked and not the first password. Point is, she's not going to be held accountable. She won't hold herself by her own standard, which disqualifies her from leadership. This is the second major scam she's been involved with. And I'm just saying, it's kind of coincidental that it's the same person.
Given your office's repeated errors that have damaged confidence in our elections, which you say is paramount, will you resign?
Absolutely not, Kyle. And I just want to.
Oh, Kyle, we're going to cut her off. What a scam. Of course, she's not going to be held by the accountability she'd hold to the other side. That would be removing the plank from her own eye while she's out looking for specks of sand in the others.
My response to Joe and Kamala is very simple. You can't lead America if you don't love Americans. You just can't. And you can't be president if you hate the American people. And there's a lot of hatred there.
Oh, that's a very good closing statement. I'm Doug in exile.